Okay, I want to welcome everybody here. It's 4 p.m. on June 23rd, and finally we got a sunny day with no rain. And I guess with that, I'd like to ask somebody for approval of the agenda. Okay, we got approval of the agenda. Second, okay, by Susan Jonah. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Contrary by nay. And we're moving here. Sir, any conflict of interest? Conflict of interest for the second time. With there being no conflict of interest, we're going to move on right away to the presentation by Digital Twinning Black Arcs.
Hi guys, I'm going to just share my screen here. And I'm not as used to.
Patricia, I'm wondering if we shouldn't introduce the team, or will
Well,
you do that as part of your getting started?
That's what I was
sorry
going
about
to
that.
hope to during
Sorry
the
to
getting
suggest.
started, but that's totally okay because when we talked about it earlier, we said, how will we do that? And I said, and somebody said, the very first slide. So
Oh, great.
if that makes sense with you. So hi everyone, my name is Patricia Seaman. Some of you may have met me in the past. I've worn many hats, and today I'm here with Portfolio, a strategic action company, and also with Black Arcs. And we are here to discuss the potential for exploring a digital twin for communities program. So again, my name is Patricia Seaman. I live in Fredericton in New Maryland, outside of Fredericton. And Portfolio is a company that often develops strategic plans, but beyond that, we often work directly with the companies that we're helping out. So that way they can ensure that the strategy that gets written actually can be implemented. And because we have a team with various skills, we are able to then support that. Chris Mathis is here as well. He's one of the VPs from the company. And then separately from that, Jake and Dane, I'm not sure if Jake has arrived yet, but Dane from Black Arcs. Sorry, I have a bit of feedback, not sure if others do. So Jake and Dane are from Black Arcs, and they are a company that's came out of UMB, or started in UMB, the thoughts behind it, and then expanded, and they create digital twins. They are a bit of an unknown celebration, I feel like, where they get a lot of work outside of Atlantic Canada, but are based here in Atlantic Canada. And then we wanted to thank Ignite. They are the group that introduced us to John, and John introduced us to you. So we're very appreciative of having this opportunity. And sort of where the idea has come from and sort of why we are here today is I was working on a separate project, and during that project I came across a program that was in Nova Scotia. And in Nova Scotia they were creating digital twins for manufacturers, so that way they could then explore opportunities to be able to be more efficient. And we thought, well, why aren't we doing that but with Black Arcs and for communities in our backyard? So that way we could address some of the challenges that are being faced at the community level with evidence-informed decision-making. So in order to support that evidence-informed decision-making. And so today, what we were hoping to do was explore a little bit about the idea of this program, review what that is, gauge some interest from the communities, define what a program might look like, explore alignment with you, and then identify partners and funding pathways if this is something that people want to further explore. The idea is that a digital twin for communities program could act as a catalyst to empower New Brunswick communities to plan smarter, grow sustainably, and attract future-focused talent through community-based digital twins. And we're going to get into what is a digital twin later, sort of to explain what that is and how that can help you and support you in those pieces. But why this program and why now? A lot of it really was stemming from the Regional Service Commission, all the development and the municipal reform that has just happened in the recent past, but you're now, as communities, sort of maturing and needing those pieces in order for you to fully achieve your roles and mandates. And with this type of program, the idea would be to provide a tool for communities to look at things like housing, workforce, infrastructure, and growth, and then have a visual data-driven simulation, so that way you can support you in your evidence-based decision making, and then also be at sort of the forefront in this within Atlantic Canada with an opportunity to lead a scalable future-ready model in your areas. And with a program like this, it will be then sort of a collaboration of partners where different partners can then work on different pieces. So we had thought of Ignite because of their economic development mandate, but also Black Arcs, where they are a digital twinning company, and then Portfolio, where we are already working with a lot of municipalities throughout the province. We've worked with St. John, we've worked with Miramichi. We have an understanding of some of the challenges that get faced. And then the idea would be to have a packaged program so that we can then help people, hand in hand through some of the pieces. So phase one would be like a call out to communities to see if there's an interest, and then a readiness assessment to see if a community has the is at the correct opportunity level for working with a group like Black Arcs. And then phase two would be then building out and customizing community digital twins. So that would be Black Arcs running that piece. And then phase three would be strategic modeling and planning integration. So growing communities and planning around that, but also at the strategic level with a group like us. So Portfolio being able to support that. So sometimes there's a lost in translation piece when you have a wonderful digital tool, but it's taking it to that next step. And then finally, a phase four would be more on our end, looking at sort of regional sharing. So lessons learned, what can we be doing as an area to work together in order to better our own area, really? Like we are all based in this area, New Maryland, Fredericton, outside of Fredericton. So, and then the reason again, so this sort of idea would then align with Ignite's regional strategy, which got released. It would enable Black Arcs to deploy its platform in a new use case, which would be very interesting for them. It would also be an opportunity to co-develop a replicable model, which would then allow communities to have better access into when you're writing grants and proposals at the federal level, you would have that evidence informed decision making, right? So it would provide you with that, the tools that you would need, and then support economic development, sustainability, and workforce planning. So sort of that's where it's coming from as an idea. We're really just here to explore, but I'm going to pass it over. I'm hoping that, Jake, are you on the line?
I am here.
Oh, awesome. I'm going to hand it over to Jake, and I will.
Okay, hold off and click and play because there's probably is audio on that too. So we're getting into some demonstrations. So this one's really quick, very quick demo. This is work we did with the City of Toronto. After that, Dane Shepherd will do some more interactive demos with New Brunswick-based communities. So like in terms of digital twins, the digital twin program for in Europe and major cities, digital twins were hot last year. So it's a big topic, and I think a lot of major cities in Europe are building their twins now. And they're using a lot of, say, IoT sensor data. So this is the future of land use planning. It's happening. Fortunately, we started down this road a decade ago, and we built a technology that is suitable for New Brunswick. So we showed well in Barcelona, so it's a comparable technology, but this can be applied for communities in the scale of New Brunswick. So it's a digital twin is basically you can look at it as a model, but that model reflects something that exists that's real, and then helps you use data and a model to do what if scenarios are planned for the future. So you can prototype things digitally of a real thing. And what City Sketch is we'll make a model of a community. So it's a plausible community model. And then we can work out what is the impact of changes, so placement or transit. It's basically comprehensive. What does changes do, or what are the impact on the community? Or if the community changes their behavior, what is the net impact of that? So it's a tool that can be used for modeling, but the data viz is also useful for communication, collaboration, to show outcomes, to show principles. So this quick demo shows what we did for Toronto with them trying to reduce their emissions. So this ties together different concepts and communicates them in a really tight package. So could you hit play, Patricia? And then expand it. So this is a model showing if Toronto, generic Toronto neighborhood. So this is showing current behavior. And if people are willing to change to walk further and bike more, what is the change? In this case, emissions. So red is driving, green is active mobility, and then the heat map shows vehicle emissions. And this is a real model. So this helps tie together those concepts quickly in a nice data viz. What's disruptive about this is that this type of modeling is used for big city transportation modeling and only in major cities. So it's generally too expensive and impractical. So we're using that type of modeling, and you can use it upfront for communication or pre-feasibility planning. So we've dropped down the cost. This type of modeling can be accessible. So for transportation planning, this is a comparable technology for advanced transportation planning, but it can be used for upfront pre-feasibility or scenario planning to do what if to show different principles. In this case, we're showing vehicle emissions, but it's pretty comprehensive. So I'm going to stop there just for a couple questions if people need it, and then we're going to go a little deeper with Dane. And questions now will help Dane tell a better explanation later.
Any questions? Greg?
Thanks. So I guess getting back to slide number 4, your first bullet point, I'm just curious which tools were broken. We need better tools to plan for housing, workforce, infrastructure, and growth. I don't want to accept that uncritically, but from your perspective, which tools that we're currently using are you seeking to integrate, make more efficient, or digitize?
Predictive modeling. So take all the data you have, stitch it together quickly, and then do predictive modeling. And the big value prop is that this is quick. So instead of being the outcome of your project, like we're going to do a project, we get some at the end, here's your report.
Right.
You have that capability for KPIs upfront pre-feasibility so that everybody can look at options, or you can look at more, quicker, better, cheaper to help people get to, well, what do we really want? So you can look at more options, better, quicker to plan, okay, this is the road we do want to go down. And you can also show it. So a lot of times there's trade-offs that are hard to communicate. You can show the options so people go, oh, that's why we want to do it like this. And you can also do things like, it's like a flight simulator. And in the simulator, you can crash the plane. This is what crashes the plane. And this is what a nice landing looks like. Oh, there's skill here. So you
Right.
can help get the principles across in a data-driven data viz. But it's quickly. So upfront, comprehensive. So better, quicker, cheaper, faster.
Right. So how would that replace, say, what we've done with our recent transportation system analysis and strategy?
It means that you can increment that all the time, every time, and just keep it rolling. Incremental change, incremental feedback. And there's no like, we're going to do this study and then we're going to go away for 10 years. It can be incremental all the time, rolling.
Awesome.
And it's
Very
not
clear.
cost prohibitive.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Any additional questions at this point? I can't see everybody, so if there are, I'll ask you to speak up. Sorry.
Oh, Patricia, Jenny has a question.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm just curious about the model. Is like how you make the input for the model. What kind of input for the model? It's like how many buys or how many people decide to walk in the city or something like that, or the index of the model.
This is the perfect segue. So this question lines up for the next section on this slide. So I'll hand it over to Dane to continue his explanation and also answer your question.
Yeah, thank you.
So if everyone's okay with it, I'll answer this question and transition into the demo from here. And then we can discuss more afterwards, if that's okay. So what you're looking at here, this slide is really what what we would use to answer your question. This will tell you how we put it all together and how it works. So the model is a combination of a lot of different data layers. It's a bit of a data fusion application. So we're taking GIS data, so that's the typical map data you'd see from road networks or transit networks and building locations, everything that goes behind something like Google Maps. So we use that to build the physical infrastructure of a community. And then we bring in census data. So you can take aggregate census data and apply what's called a disaggregation algorithm. And it turns your aggregate data into a set of plausible households. So you look at a community, we know a community is made up of so many households of this particular size. People work in industries A, B, C with these different proportions. And we can kind of recreate that as a set of household level agents. And then to those household level agents, we apply a household-based activity model. So this is 20 years of transportation modeling that comes out of the University of Toronto. And we've done our own implementation here because it's all open source. And that's kind of the core engine that makes everything go. And then on top of that, that's where you pull out, okay, I have my simulation. I can start asking questions. You pull out your metrics, your different data visualizations to get a sense of the lens you're trying to apply for the questions you're trying to ask. Does that answer your question? Okay. So from here, I guess I'll transition. I'll take over the screen share, Patricia. Thank you. And I'll go to my own screen share. Okay, so you should be seeing an application that may be familiar to some of you and may be unfamiliar to others. So this is CitySketch. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to run through not a specific type of analysis, but just kind of a quick surface level menu of some of the different types of things you can do, non-exhaustive. And I'll do it, I'll kind of use a scenario to plan around this. So let's say this is Sackville, New Brunswick. It's about 5,000 people. And let's say we're planning for some development in the area. I'll kind of focus on this area of the map for the most part. So if we say, okay, we've got an industrial park coming in. And I'm going to put down 36 different buildings here. And each one of these is going to be an industrial type building. So we have different building archetypes we use to categorize, and they're all going to bring in a certain number of jobs. And the employee or the people in the community, the agents in the community, can use this as a location to go to work. And let's do a little bit more development here. Let's say there's also a school coming in. We'll put a school here. Make it a little bit bigger, just to make it stand out. And we'll say catchment area big enough to capture the community, and this will be a K-12 school. And can also do, okay, we got a school coming in, we got an industrial park, probably going to get some growth. So we'll plan around some new residential buildings coming in. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say, let's run a scenario where 75% of these new buildings are multi-residential. And I've previously run a low density version that we can kind of compare against. I won't go into too much detail in the comparison for now, but talk about that a bit more later. So,
and if it's already designed and you have a GIS layer of the footprints, well, we can just import that. So you can sketch rapidly to see, or we can import GIS files of existing developments or plans.
Yeah, so we can bring in existing community development plans or growth strategies, that sort of thing. But for now, I'm just kind of going off the cuff. So I've built a new, what do you call it, Chris? A MERB, multi-unit development here. We'll connect it to the road network, and let's put in This guy. Let's put in a little coffee shop here as well, just so they got something in the area that they can go to. So next step, we know we're bringing in people, and the idea that I'm working off of here is that this is going to be the workforce for our industrial park. So you can kind of look at workforce placement and run some scenarios around that. So we do the job assignment. So we got 405 new jobs here that are now connected to our new residents. And then anyone who didn't get a job at the new location will kind of look around the rest of the community. And now we run the scenario. So now we're going through that activity model, and the agents are evaluating, where do I live? Where do my kids go to school? Do we want to get a coffee, go to work, go to school? How many cars do we have? How do we plan our day together? Do I need to drop my kids off at soccer practice? All that sort of stuff.
So Dane could have easily updated, here's a new transit line, add that, let's add some walking trails. So it's placement, but also mobility options. So you can look at both.
And we can see they're already going and engaging with the community in various ways. So I'll fast forward through here. I don't want to get too detailed at this stage of the demo, but fast forward, we can see this school is populated. This coffee shop is very popular. We have a bunch of people over here, and the agents are color coded by activity type. So yellow means they're doing something leisure related, blue is school and institution, and red is work related. So we can see a lot of people shifted over here as part of going to work and turn red. And if we look at one of these agents, we can see, okay, they're at work right now. They live in an apartment, probably in this location over here. And they're going to the cafe after work because it's kind of the only leisure activity in the area. And other agents might have a doctor's appointment or might need to go get gas or go get groceries or something like that, or pick up other members of their household. And this is the point where you can kind of start thinking about what are the different lenses we might apply here. So maybe traffic is something that's of interest. Maybe you want to look at how this is affecting local traffic or traffic delays. Maybe you want to look at greenhouse gas emissions. So we can visualize different greenhouse gas emissions related to the transportation. It looks like people are mostly using this road to get out, as a lot of them are going into town for various things. You can look at walkability.
Show the service cost tool after.
Yeah, I'll get there.
Okay.
And then this is kind of showing different walking trips. So we can see a little bit of connectivity between the different areas here. And another lens that people have showed interest in is you can also look at, okay, for this type of development, we'd call this, this is suburban one. This is just a categorization, but the important thing here is that we can say, based off of some previous studies that have been done, this type of development, you're paying about, for example, $76 per person to maintain the roads. If we look at the contrast, typical New Brunswick development patterns, where you got kind of single unit residential, you're looking at $339 per person or higher if you're even lower density than this. So a lot of different lenses you can use, and then you can say, based off of my metrics, my scenarios that I've run, maybe I want to compare to my low density setup, and you can see, okay, how do my greenhouse gas emissions differ? How does my traffic differ? And a lot of other different types of scenarios we can run as well. This one was largely workforce placement. You can also look at what if we wanted to swap one of these to a community health center? How are people getting there? You can look at any one of these buildings and evaluate, okay, who's coming here? How are they getting here? What's the purpose for their trip? What modalities are they taking? And you can use that to kind of get into the weeds on how this digital twin is interacting.
So it's a powerful, flexible technology. It can do all kinds of things. So we're Black Arcs, we're tool makers, background in making new technologies. And then we're working with Portfolio because they know how to apply this technology for the New Brunswick context. So that's why we're working together. So we work with all kinds of people doing all kinds of things. But Portfolio they understand the tool and they also understand your context. So they're our partner to apply this locally.
So I'm going to go back to sharing a few questions that we had in hopes to sort of have a bit of a discussion with this group to see if if you see value in this direction, sort of what we're thinking about in developing sort of a packaged approach for municipalities and for the various communities in our area. What role you might see people playing, or how might you think that this should be piloted, or if you see of any funding streams. But really, we wanted to open it up to this group to see if there is an interest, to see if there's value in what we are putting together.
Okay, I think I can start off. I know you guys know me. Our community is very interested in this program and process, and that we see all kinds of value for us moving forward. Our biggest hurdles are just getting started and getting the understanding of how we get started with it. Recently, we've had people contact us and say, okay, we'd like to put a motel here, and do you think it'll work? And what size motel should we look at? And items like that. So we will be reaching out again through Allison here to get over the hurdle of how do we get started. So maybe what is your thoughts on how do you actually get started once you've come to this realization that what you guys can provide us is a good thing?
Chris,
Well,
are you on the line?
Yeah. Sorry, I keep forgetting, Patricia, you don't see when we're unmuted or anything. So Kevin, part of this is on an individual basis, there's opportunities for the communities like yourself to advance these opportunities, right? And I think part of what we're seeing as a potential value is to try to pool things together and have and determine if there's opportunity for a larger program so that there's more direct ability to pursue some of these things, especially where some of the smaller communities and perhaps some of the RSCs want to act in different ways to advance more of this kind of informed thinking and planning. I think it's important to point out that the quick example that Dane did today, from an engineering cost, let's say, to have answered one of those questions would have taken quite a long time and been very expensive. And it's not to take away from the opportunity for those traditional planning exercises to take place, but it's our view there's tremendous benefit in seeing those top scenarios that the community is really feeling strongly about through engagement. You're going to have so much more alignment, and then the expense and the time to actually come to an execution of a plan and advancing a plan is happening faster. So the idea would be a program that probably could be doing this more effectively, but if it's one-offs like where you are, Director Nicklin, at this point, then of course, that's all great.
Yeah. So can you tell me then, from the benefit for CRSC, as you know, we have large cities. Fredericton would be 70, 80,000 plus, whatever it is. And then we have very small cities, or not cities, rural communities. And when we're trying to come up with, how does that work for everybody? Because that's what we're trying to do, is make a mold for everyone here in the CRSC. How does that work?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different approaches. If there's a lot of alignment, there could be a stepped approach to look at from a RSC perspective and perhaps more broadly. The benefit of doing this in a more cohesive approach is that the interconnections of the different communities and RSCs start to actually provide much more richness in the longer term. And you could even get into a whole provincial digital twin as an example, covering a multitude of different needs and interests, land use planning being a primary one, I would think, right?
Okay, so I see Susan has her hand up there. Maybe we can go to her.
Oh, okay. Hi, thanks. Actually, I guess I've met these guys a couple times before, because Hanwell is very interested also in what's going on, because we have numerous traffic problems, as you know, in our industrial park and near our industrial park. That sort of thing. And actually, but one of the things that actually you brought up today that I hadn't really thought of before is you're saying that you could determine like the cost per household or house for roads. Is that something that you can be done? Like if we needed to do a feasibility study of the roads that we have now based on various different factors, can you figure out is there a way to do the cost? Because that's one of the problems we've been having, because we don't own our roads, and because DTI doesn't, their districts are different than the municipal boundaries. So we have no idea what we've got, what it would cost. We did in, I think, 2016 or 17 or 18, did do a road feasibility study of Hanwell itself. But that's been a long time ago, and it was just Hanwell, long before municipal form. So is this the kind of thing that we could use to find out what our costs would be?
Yeah, I mean, Dane, I think you can get into the more specifics there
Sure.
on this, but I just want to point out the more data that the city sketch system can access, the better, of course, it's going to be, and it'll improve Dane's ability to show the projections as well over a period of time. DTI providing that data to you is a whole other piece. Dane?
Yeah, to add to that, I think that's a reasonable summary, Chris. But yes, so we can do kind of a first pass evaluation. We're not really looking to entirely replace the engineering studies, because as Chris mentioned, like there's value in that. There's a place for that for sure. But we might be able to help you get it a little more targeted and say these types of developments are going to be very expensive to maintain the road, or these types of patterns. And help you kind of narrow in so you can target future spending
Right.
a little more precisely.
Okay. Thanks very much.
All right, Director Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I love this. This is fascinating stuff. I've been a player of SimCity since it first came out in its earliest edition, which was almost cardboard and tabletop. Nonetheless, I'm keenly aware that I'm probably not the best audience for this. I mean, this is something that ought to be pitched at the City of Fredericton to our planning and engineering department primarily. And I'm sure top of their list of questions is, where does the PEng or where does the planning credential come in? Because, this is clearly not a replacement for that. And so it's got to dovetail in somehow. And I don't want to overpower our decision makers with, visuals and graphics and things that hit them hard in the common sense. If it doesn't also align with the professional ethics and credentials of the people we pay to give us the actual evidence and the actual value of data so we can make good decisions. So, I mean, I love this, but I'd really like to see city staff take it for a run and see what kind of value they can derive from this. Because
exactly.
Models, they're only as good as the data you put in, and boy, we spend a lot of time at the City of Fredericton playing defense on the other levels of government and the kind of data they give us.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
The city sketch, I think some of the things that Dane can address is in terms of the creds, in terms of what the research is based on that is represented in the traffic modeling as an example. And the other piece is some of the other projects that have been done in Georgia comes to mind. I think, Dane, you can reference in terms of actual comparability of the simulation traffic counting to real traffic counting, just to give you a sense of just it's not just it's not way out there in SimCity, although yes, I loved SimCity too. Dane, you want to address that?
Sure. Yeah. So typically, as part of spinning up a new community, we look for some sort of real world data we can validate against. So the the example that Chris gave, we did Peachtree Corners, a city of about 46,000, and they had really good traffic counters. So we were able to tweak the parameters of the simulation, so we can say, okay, well, our simulated traffic is about 96 representation of those daily traffic counters. And then there are other different avenues we can use. We can map employers and number of employees directly to the geospatial reality. And at the end of the day, just to reiterate, like, we are not looking to replace those engineering studies. We kind of see ourselves as the precursor. We come in a little bit before you go to those guys and say, okay, well, let's zoom in a little bit and let's take the crazy options off the table by doing this ballpark model and say we don't need to pay a bunch of money to get an analysis done on this one particular option because our ballpark model says this doesn't even make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to come behind that too. It is, I kicked the tires a bit early on. I had some deeper sessions with, for instance, CBCL that has an extensive planning group based in Halifax, doing an awful lot of work in the region as an example. And they reference the same researcher whose research and studies backstopped a lot of their platform. But what we also would have as a challenge, as you can imagine, is the business as usual approach. A study takes this long, it's going to cost X. And then you have another couple of questions. Well, that'll extend the study because those questions weren't considered in the original study. Well, an awful lot of that can be done, as you could see, although it was a simplified example, very quickly. And so then we're getting on to the business of actually having an impact on our society, right? But yes, this is a disruptive opportunity for sure.
It is. So the brain behind the techniques from U of T, so the guru of activity-based modeling, so Dr. Miller of U of T, likes City Sketch. He thinks it's a great implementation of those techniques. And I suspect that those modern techniques for mobility modeling, I really doubt you're using them at all in New Brunswick. Last I heard from UNB folks about some of the consulting in the area, they're using a 4-stage approach, which is good, but it was developed in the 50s. The 4-stage developed in the 50s. We can do a lot more with data now. And that, I think for City Sketch, and you saw that easy setup, we did a lot of work to be able to grab the appropriate data sets and then construct those models quickly. So that took years and years and millions of dollars to get that pipeline built up. And then we construct those existing techniques. So the agent-based modeling is all existing. We can defend every step of it, but it's the tooling that instead of taking 6 months to set up, it's in an afternoon, and we've de-risked because we have a lot of data checking, data correction, validation. So it was that data process that took years and years and years and millions.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any further questions? I don't see any more hands up. Oh, okay. You want to carry on then? Or do you have further, what about the funding streams and or partners could be activated early? That last, I think everybody here is all about funding and how do we move forward like that?
And this brings us back to you, Patricia.
I think so. So we want to co-develop an application for a proposal, put together a proposal with interested communities. So whether that be with a federal funder or a regional funder, but packaging up an application together. So not just doing it, Portfolio and BlackArc's doing it and Ignite. We're hoping Ignite, but really we want to build something that will actually make sense for our communities and then package it similarly to how they did the digital twins for manufacturing, which went in through an NGO that was aligned. Their mandate was aligned, and then they put it in as a regional request. where then the federal partner didn't fund the entire amount, but funded a portion of it. So if we could build something out like that, that we're actually addressing the needs of our region, we might have to have it so that it's offered larger than just our region, but really, because we are based here, we want to benefit from the brain power here, is really what it comes down to.
Okay.
So with matching funds from, say, a provincial source, we would be able to put this together collectively in front of, say, a COA. A COA needs to see that provincial contribution, of course, in order to participate. But there could be other types of packaging as well, FCM perhaps. And so there's opportunities to try to do that in a more intentional way as a group versus individual communities or RSCs trying to move their plans forward, right?
Right. Okay. Anyone have any comments or questions on that?
John?
So, thank you, Mr. Chair and Patricia. I think in terms of that and looking, today we have, I've been messaged by some other communities that are watching. So you have, I'm going to say 9, possibly 10 communities that are watching here today. I think what we have to do is let this kind of resonate, go back, find out the level of interest, see what's happening. Maybe even invite you back for yet another round of, the meet and greet. But it is a process building, right? In terms of the funding, certainly Ignite can help us lead a lot of that through the weeds on that in terms of where we can go. If I'm looking at the Vision 2030 and we're looking at everything from knowledge economy to creative industries, defense, and natural resources, there certainly seems to be within Vision 2030 for our region a synergy here. Now, how do we employ that and how do we parlay that into a synergy into an actual opportunity? And I think that's going to take a few more internal discussions to gauge the level of interest, talk to those communities that are watching outside of here. Other communities may log on later and have a look and then kind of come back to the group or come back to you and say, this is certainly something you can do, and certainly would encourage individual communities, such as the city of Fredericton, and I'm kind of more having a conversation with Director Erickson here, just saying it would be good to have communities that want to reach out, because I know that you were in conversations or working with at least 2 communities in our region. And there may be more that see this today and go back and say, hey, you know what? There's a synergy here on X. It may not be the whole community development, but certainly an opportunity to develop something within the community. So that's how I see it, Mr. Chair. And I'll turn that back to you or Patricia. And I believe Member Erickson has a question there as well.
Yeah. Well, I believe we do have to take it back, obviously, to the board and see what their thought process would be. But in the meantime, Director Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think CEO Smith, spoke very well to this. It's a very exciting proposition. It's certainly an excellent opportunity to have another meeting, another discussion about this. We need to find some novel ways to, create some funding for this. But we're really good at that locally, right? I mean, the Marysville bypass was paid for by heritage funding, right? We're paying for our performing arts center with gas tax. We're pretty flexible about how to find funding and apply it to projects that, make a difference in our community. So I'm not really concerned about that part so much as just what pieces we can get rolling quickly. It's going to be a tough year too to scrape money. Aside from the, the municipal cost of living increasing faster than the residential, which is typically the case. The assessment freeze has knocked 10% of our revenue out of contention. Thank you, Susan. But anyway, I think this would deliver value worth finding the money for. And once we kind of get it aligned with the various things that the city's working on, because I mean, the city of Fredericton, we've been working on, digital layers of our mapping for a long time. The first project I worked on in 2012 as a counselor was with the Insurance Bureau of Canada and coming up with a digital map of our stormwater infrastructure to answer some of their policy questions and some of ours. But it wasn't as slick as this. It wasn't as integrated as this. It wasn't as adaptable as this, and it didn't provide any predictive solutions. It was just, basic financial modeling outcomes that were being touched on in that. So anyway, I'm keen to keep working on this to see if we can use this to, make it part of our braver future that we experience together. And I'd be happy to go talk to city staff and see if we can't get some of them on board too, because I think we do need some engineering and planning folks to look at this as well and contemplate what not business as usual and what the city's next, step into a smart city space might look like if we're not already looking at it. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I think as well as we might consider having a meeting, even a joint meeting with the engineering group of City of Fredericton and then maybe Lonnie's group that does the planning and development for the rural communities would be probably a good thing. Yep.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, and a lot of those folks are on today from Lonnie's group.
Right.
He has a good representation here as well, so that's certainly something that they'll take back and put into their thinking as we're moving forward as well. So,
yeah, it would be interesting. It's always interesting to hear from Lonnie what he thinks, but especially on this, whether this would be a help for us as for them in helping us. Lonnie's not going to talk. Okay. All right. So is there any further questions?
I see Amanda, our economic coordinator, has her hand up there, Mr. Chair.
Great. Amanda?
Hey there. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a list of several questions, but they're easy ones, so I know I can get to the bottom of it just probably by looking on the website. But one thing that did come to mind is, so I know, back to Director Erickson's point, I can really see the value in this in the sense that it's an ongoing study and it's not one study that you've done and then a couple of years later there's been a pandemic and tariffs and all of a sudden that's irrelevant. So the incremental change piece is really interesting. But I'm wondering kind of what is the outcome of a project like this? Like, is this something that once it's finished we're given access to just to keep updating, or is it something that it's subscription based, so we are constantly feeding? Like, is every client you've ever had still with you kind of, and you're updating back and forth with them, or how does that work in terms of what the end deliverable is?
I'll jump in here first and then probably be Chris after.
Yep.
I think for us with again, portfolio will help get it bundled together in terms of usable, but our vision for the toolkit, the main value is to help get a collective vision and also to support community engagement. So it's really not really about it's about getting people's minds switched on, walk through their options, and then get more of a, oh yeah, we're doing this together and we're all going to go down this road together. So the big picture is to help with the visuals and the engagement, build a collective vision, and then everything will work out magically, right? But the other piece is that you want to box it up at the end of a project. We can export GIS layers, they go into plans. We can, so basically we can export all kinds of data and metrics that go into plans or GIS systems. But then the other piece is that rolling is also possible. We haven't got to that position where it's rolling. I think that's more of a regional government supporting local, and we've been all focusing on local or provincial or other projects. Maybe I'll hand it over to Chris because portfolio will be the team helping that tool get rolled out and get into a process.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I think we have a number of ways to work with the communities to understand the nature of what the needs are going to be. I think a really important piece is that the data that's been generated for the communities should be with the communities. It shouldn't be something that you have to go back to some third party. And so if there's a subscription component that allows for the continued visibility and then additional levels of a service cost or something because there's new questions to ask, new tariffs, what's that going to mean to our 10 and 25 year plans as an example? Well, all those things can be applied into net new work, but you're starting from a digital baseline platform for each of the communities.
Okay. Well, listen, I want to not to cut you off, but we're running short of time, and I want to thank you. And I'm sure this won't be the last time that we're going to be talking in one way or another. And I want to thank you for giving us the presentation today.
Really appreciate the time of everybody. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks. So, you anybody that doesn't want to stay online, don't feel like you have to. But those of you that are directors, stay online. So, anyway, we're going to move it over to budget discussions for 2026, and our CEO, John Smith, please.
So, Mr. Chair, if the members all recall, or just to refresh everybody's memory, last year in budget 2025, we set aside 15,000 for some professional development services or professional services if required. And that was in anticipation of some of the presentations that we saw coming that may emanate out of Vision 2030 with Ignite. If you recall, some of the directors of the board that were participating in some of the webinars like we did today, we're talking around, if there's opportunity or potential opportunities around agricultural, some were natural resource based. I believe Member Meunier brought that to the table at one point. So there's going to be things that will be upcoming. So far, we've been quite frugal with that funding. We were able to take that to 15. Through the budget process last year, we had originally had 30, 15 on each side, economic development and tourism. It was reduced to 15, and I'm suggesting that for budget 2026, we toe the line on that, and we put in for 15 again, and we'll be able to utilize our SSF funding if need be. And there's hasn't been an announcement on this, but we will have a little bit of, well, I'll just wait and say that I was going to talk about some flexibilities that may be coming in our life, but I'll just leave it at that. But if we can put down to, I think if we can get a consensus on that, we would maintain the 15. That could even be utilized for even some seed funding on something like we just saw there, to just at least do a baseline to, if we needed to have some extra meetings to talk about, some in-person things, to be able to advance that and maybe draft up a proposal with the company and the group. So within that, I apologize. Within that, I would suggest that if it so fits the desire of the committee, that we would put in for the same amount as in 2025.
Okay. What have we used out of this year's budget now? Do you know?
Realistically, Mr. Chair, it's been very minimal. Chances are we're going to be incurring a small portion of costs within the Stiletto project on healthcare and physician recruitment, physician, nurse practitioner, and healthcare recruitment. If I pause myself a little bit, slow down. So we may be looking at a small portion of that. That would mostly be around, I would suspect around translation of the final document when we get it. If the board decides to share that document publicly, and that can lead to some other things. That was part of that joint meeting with community development.
Yeah.
And it seemed to be a priority for the board, and it certainly seemed to be a priority for this group. We found other funding to help support the study portion of it, but there will be some smaller portions. The other thing is, I'm suspecting when we get into the fall, when we see some of the outline after we had the visioning session with 2030, where does that lead to? I would suspect we're going to see some requests come in that will be looking for, if nothing else, some seed money to advance maybe some projects, opportunities, or studies to further tease out some ideas within that. And that could be anything from supply chain on DND. It could be under the creative arts side. It could be under natural resources, knowledge economy. There's a lot to that document. And I know Sarah and the team are working very hard on that. Not to steal their thunder. So, I mean, when they come back out with the, kind of the final project and what does that look like over the 5 years and how do we integrate that? I believe we'll start to see some requests roll in. So far, very little commitment out of that 30,000. We doubled it up with our SSF last year. And we haven't, as a committee, we have not really delved into that funding deeply as of this point.
So I guess having the 15 there is kind of like money in the bank, so to speak. So if we do get a project that we want to fund, and the RSFF funding would be there as well and it would trigger that. Is that correct?
Yes, we can do that. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so what do you want us to do there now? Should we make can we make a vote on that, or do
Well,
we?
just if we have consensus on that. I did see a lot of heads nodding, which was encouraging. So I do appreciate that. But if there's any point of contention or dissension, perhaps that should be raised now while you're there, Mr. Chair. And if not, I'll carry this forward to the CFO to incorporate that into her thinking as we advance through Budget 2026.
Well, I agree. I see a lot of head shaking yes and thumbs up and all that good stuff. So I'd say we carry that forward in that fashion. So that's great.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, I should have had an other just be right after that, if you would be so kind as to indulge me. Normally, unless there is a pressing issue, we try not to meet during July and August. I just wanted to make sure that was the desire of the committee, considering we're all looking probably out the window at the first nice day. I don't know where Victoria is or Member Green is, I should say, but it looks very pleasing to be there. And Susan's got some sunshine coming in. Greg's got some sunshine. Paul looks
like I'm keeping it out.
Habitat, but yeah, like I'm just looking, going like I can't wait to. I'm kind of looking out the window here, going, this is I think our first really nice day, or one of the first really nice days. So I think we got that short season.
Yeah.
10 minutes from now, I'm going to be down on the sandbars picking oysters. So hurry up.
Oh, nice.
Now I got a council meeting tonight, so great.
Yeah, me too.
Anyway, I don't think anyone disagrees with that break. Unless you do, please speak up now.
Well, I really think we should just suck it up and keep going forever.
Okay, who votes?
Plenty of time in the fall. Plenty of time in the fall.
Yeah. Anyway, no, that's good. Okay, and then the next thing on the agenda would be just general discussion. Again, I just want to say that I think that this year we've taken a step forward with how we're doing the presentations. There's been a lot of activity in the presentations. A lot of people are watching. I think that CRSC has done an amazing job putting these all together. I would like to take some credit, but I can take none. And they've done
allow them to be on the agenda, Mr. Chair.
I think they've done a great job, and I commend them for that. And I think this is kind of what people are looking for from us is just bringing ideas, bringing things to the table that might help their communities. So,
yep.
But I do think that we owe it after this great year of CRSC putting this stuff together. We kind of owe it to them to say, hey, look, this is what we're looking for, so they can go out and help try to gather that up, if that makes sense.
And Mr. Chair, we've been very fortunate. Several of the members on the committee and several of our board of director members from other communities that don't sit directly on the committee have certainly been open to share their views of what they would like to see on. So we'll, in the general direction, if people have items today, they can give us those items, but just email Kelly or myself or Amanda, any of the team here at the CRSC, Lonnie, when he's out in your communities, put a
Yep.
bug in our ear, and we'll find a way to try to make it happen for you.
Okay.
Outstanding.
Is there anything else under just the general discussion that anyone wants to bring up? Well, with that being nothing else, I would ask John. I've had a complaint that Kelly and Lonnie, they're very, very warm at the office, and they'd like the air conditioner turned down some, or a new sweater. I can't remember what they said, but anyway.
I was looking for a new sweater for Lonnie last week there. I thought the poor man was going to turn into a popsicle, and I was running around going, thank goodness somebody finally understands me. So we have a difference of opinion in what's cold and what's not. So,
All right. Well, with that being
just for the
said,
record, Mr. Chair, I
yeah.
just want to say on this, maybe the second or third nicest day of the summer, tomorrow's supposed to be somewhere around 38 to 40 with the humidex and 31, 32. I'll be here with Lonnie and the gang later in the evening. We're doing prac tomorrow evening. So I can look, if you happen to see and I look like I'm weeping over in the corner, I probably am. I'm just, that's just me wanting the desire to get outside and go play. But sometimes, you know, we don't get to choose the weather that we get when we're off work. So anyway, I just thought we'd leave with a little humor.
Right on. Well, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second it. There we go.
I'll second it.
We're adjourned. Thank you
Thanks,
very much.
everyone. We'll see
Thank
you.
you,
Have a great
everyone.
summer, everyone.
And
You
probably
too.
before. Bye.
Thank
Well,
you.